Episode 4. A Thief's Discovery. When the next day had arrived, Callian was already off to a rough start. He had found a place to sleep, but it was far from ideal. Sleeping off to the side of the dirt roads near the woods, using one of the trees to lay his back against, he found it impossible to get a good night's rest. If it wasn't the bugs attacking him and waking him up, then it was the few travelers still journeying along the dirt roads who disturbed his sleep. With only one arm and the darkness surrounding him, those people assumed he was either dead or badly injured, so they would shake him to confirm. But he would open his eyes, tell them to go away, then close them once more. Grumpy from the night before, Callian started blaming the king for all his misfortunes. Despite it all, he had covered quite the distance, determined to go as far as he could before stopping to rest again. Still, he had many miles to go before reaching his destination. He began to ponder how he could successfully steal someone's horse. Would he sneak and do it, jumping on the horse's back while the owner was not around? Or would he choose to be bold and snatch a person off their mount? He even visualized himself doing it as he thought about it. Normally he would have chosen the sneaky approach from the start, but it was just the kind of mood he was in. Even if he succeeded though, he still had never driven a horse before, and attempting to do so for the first time with one arm seemed like a hard task in itself. So, instead he continued on foot. His stomach growled as the rest of his body felt like it was losing energy. He felt weak, as if he would be taking his last few steps before collapsing. He had been walking for about 6 hours since waking up from what little sleep he had. "I can see it! I can finally see it!" shouted Callian. He wanted to jump for joy, but felt too weak to do so. The thought of continuing even just one more mile seemed impossible. But then, a few houses and business establishments came into view, and it was as if a sudden short burst of energy surged through his body, readying him to push on even more. He had almost given up, but this glimpse of civilization reignited his determination. Callian was unaware that the dirt road he was on led directly to the busy shopping district of Mount Shorin, a village within the kingdom of Eldoria. He only knew that he was heading in the direction of the kingdom. At the village border, a group of peacekeepers stood chatting, appearing to monitor the comings and goings of people. This was the most active area in the village, so peacekeepers maintained a constant presence to deter thieves and other troublemakers. Callian stopped, considering his situation. His bloodstained garments and missing arm would surely draw unwanted attention and questions. Telling the truth was not an option, as the peacekeepers would never allow someone like him, a thief and troublemaker, to enter. He needed a plan, and fast. Fortunately, as he glanced toward the woods, an idea struck him almost instantly. "I wonder if I could use the woods to sneak in? I might come out on the other side, right in the village if I enter here." Looking over at the guards, he figured it would be a lot easier than lying, especially since he was already used to sneaking in and out of places anyway, even if it hadn't gone as planned the last time. Callian ventured deep into the woods before daring to move any closer to the kingdom. The woods were a scary place. No one knew what animals or creatures lurked within. He could run into snakes or something worse, maybe even spiders and their webs, which he had a huge fear of. So, he treaded lightly and swiftly. As Callian nervously moved through the woods, he heard ruffling sounds coming from behind him. "What is that?" he wondered, looking back as panic slowly began to set in. "This is why I really didn't want to come in here," he said, speeding up his pace, looking ahead once more. In response, the sounds grew louder. He couldn't help but assume some vicious, man-eating beast was on his tail. It must be a bear trying to eat me, or a wolf or something. After having that thought, a few more ruffling sounds were all it took to send Callian running for his life. No longer concerned with looking back, he just wanted to run. The noise continued to grow louder, and its steps sounded far faster, though he ran as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast given the terrain. "Please tell me I'm almost there," he said to himself, pushing leaves and such out of his path that limited his visibility. As he passed through the small bush, something wrapped around Callian's foot, causing him to fall to the ground. A thump was heard. Lifting his head up, he could see a glimpse of the village in front of him behind a few tall trees and more bushes. Instead of getting up, Callian turned on his butt to see what was chasing him, but he still hadn't seen it since bushes and debris blocked its path. But he could see the bushes moving and shaking as if whatever it was would soon be upon him. Quickly getting up, he let out a loud yell. "AHHH. yelling his way out of the woods, causing the villagers shopping nearby to stop and stare at him. Callian stopped running as soon as he saw all eyes on him. What is going on? They all thought. Is he okay? Is something wrong with him? Still, the noise continued towards him until it finally revealed its head, and what they all saw, they couldn't believe. This guy was running from a deer. A villager spoke out loud to the one he was standing next to. Callian quickly felt ashamed and embarrassed. Did it do that to his arm? Callian turned his head toward the deer, then back to the people, placing an awkward smile on his face. Looking at the deer once more, it had done nothing but turn its back and head back into the woods. People just stared at Callian thinking, no way that deer did that to him. It would have been one thing just seeing one arm, but to also see blood stains on his garments was something else. Once again, looking at all the eyes on him, it didn't take Callian long to realize exactly what they were all staring at. He looked down at where his arm used to be, then back at the people as he fixed his face to let out another awkward smile. Without saying a word, Callian awkwardly walked away from the crowd before they could start speaking or asking questions themselves. As hungry as he was, his first move was surely to steal some new garments. He wanted to ditch his current and bloody wear to help reduce attention. But first, he had to get a feel for the village. There were way too many witnesses. Even though Callian arrived with half the day gone, there were still tons of villagers around, which probably meant there were peacekeepers lurking around too. He tried his best to blend in with the other villagers, but it was no use. Everywhere he went, every dirt road he turned on, he stuck out like a sore thumb. Everyone wondered the same things. Still, no one spoke to the strange man. Even though he looked physically hurt, he moved around as if he weren't. There was no look of pain on his face at all either, though he did show looks of concern and confusion, but unbeknownst to them, the fact he wasn't in any pain was thanks to the Helen plant, though a few had some really good guesses. As Callian walked down a particular dirt road, he kept glancing left and right. On either side were booths, small shops selling accessories, some offering coats and sweaters for both men and women, but nothing else. And then there were food booths, which only made Callian's hunger worse. It was too bad they didn't have food out for display. He could almost imagine snatching food off the tables and running away. It would have been an easy grab for him. Seeing that he was coming up on an intersection, he thought about which road to take next, either to go left, right, or straight. While doing so, he also noticed he was approaching a weapons shop. If this is what I think it is, then the garments can wait just a bit longer, Callian thought to himself, and almost immediately, he found himself standing right in front of it. On a wooden table directly in front of Callian laid daggers of various shapes, sizes, and designs. Sitting on racks that stood on the same table were various swords, battle axes, and maces that were the same length as the swords, which were thick but not very long. On the racks inside the booth were much longer and thicker swords, axes, and maces. Their sheer size made them appear as if it would take even the most muscular of men to wield them with two hands. However, Callian didn't care about those as he stared at the daggers, and since he had not called for help, the merchant never stepped forward to assist, assuming he just wanted to have a look. However, stares were given Callian's missing arm and blood-stained garments. The weapons the merchant had weren't like the weapons in the vault, but with his fetish, he didn't care as long as it was better than what he currently had, which was nothing, since the guards stripped him of his weapons. Lost in his daze, Callian didn't notice the group of peacekeepers approaching him. He also didn't notice they had been following him for a while now, ever since laying their eyes on him. "Hey you!" A peacekeeper among the four of them shouted, as they were quickly closing the distance between them and Callian by speed walking. They weren't too far away when Callian turned his head to see four men in armor with their swords and axes either on their backs or sides, walking his way. "Oh crap," he said, looking at them. He looked down at the daggers on the table, then over at the guards again. "Stay right there," the peacekeeper instructed, but Callian wasn't going to listen to him. He grabbed the dagger he had been staring at most, right before running as fast as he could, placing the dagger on his waist midway in his trousers. Callian wasn't a slow runner, having better terrain to run on, nor did he have heavy armor and weapons to weigh him down, so he quickly increased the distance. He had also chosen to run straight, rather than turn left or right at the intersection, no longer having time to think about it. The peacekeepers could hardly keep up, so they shouted out at him once more. "Stop. We just want to ask you some questions." Another peacekeeper yelled, yet it was no use. Callian wasn't stopping for anything. "Hey, I said stop now," another guard shouted. It was the same guard that told him not to move upon approaching. A man who was minding his business, ordering food, soon turned around after hearing those words and instantly laid eyes on Callian, a tall, muscular gentleman. Caucasian, with a dark beard. Callian was about to run straight past him. It didn't take a genius to realize the man running was the one the guards needed to catch. Now wanting to be a good Samaritan, the man grabbed Callian from behind with his arms wrapped around Callian's waist. I got him, the man yelled. "Hold him," instructed the guard as they approached. Callian's heart raced as he struggled to pry and wiggle his way out of the stranger's arms. It was no use. He tried to catch a glimpse of the man's face holding him. Instead, all he could really see was the food booth behind them with its high countertop and bar stools for the customers, giving him an idea. Using the strength in his legs and body weight, he began stepping back while still in the man's grasp. The tension was palpable as they both moved backwards, almost in a dance, towards the food booth. Then, with a loud crash, the man's back hit the countertop, causing him to cry out in pain and release Callian. In that split second, Callian didn't hesitate to strike back, landing a punch on the man's face, causing him to fall on the floor. The guards, now witnessing the scuffle, labeled Callian as not just a thief, but also an assailant. Their determination to catch him only intensified as they continued the chase. Despite the chaos, Callian managed to increase the distance between them once more, pushing and knocking villagers out his way. They wanted to check on the man, yet they couldn't risk stopping the chase. The man had slowly risen to his feet, holding his back. "If I ever see that guy again, I'm going to kill him." Attempting to confuse his pursuers, the one-armed man ran between a couple of shops before hiding next to a stack of boxes with his back against the wall. It was a short stack, so he had to sit crisscross to avoid his legs sticking out. To his right were the boxes, and to his left was an alley created by the nearby shops. "I think I lost them for now," he thought, breathing heavily and trying to catch his breath in case he had to run again. A few villagers walking down the road towards Callian could see him sitting next to the boxes, while people passing by couldn't see him until they walked past. "Come on," he went down this street. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, Kofi, I'm sure." The voices and footsteps grew louder. He didn't have to guess who was talking. Their clear voices suggested they were right on the other side of those boxes. "Should we check over here?" a peacekeeper asked. Maybe he went this way. The peacekeepers were talking about the alley Callian was nearby. They would without a doubt spot Callian once walked past the stack of boxes, making their way in the alley. "Oh crap," Callian thought, feeling like he was about to have an anxiety attack. Yeah, maybe he did. 3 soldiers moved toward the alley. "Hey, wait," Kofi, the leader, instructed. "There's another squad of PKs. We should spread the word to our brothers." The group continued walking on the road until they passed the boxes and stopped, allowing Callian to see their backs. The one who suggested checking the alley kept his head on a swivel as they stood in place. "Hey, let me ask you something," Kofi said again as the other group approached, coming from the opposite direction. Soon the 2 groups would be face to face. "You didn't see a one-armed bloody man run down here, did you?" "A one-armed bloody man? What the hell are you talking about?" replied the leader of the other group, a large muscular male covered head to toe in black armor, and a massive black axe with shiny silver blades on his back. From that response, I can tell you haven't seen him. At the same time Kofi was explaining the situation, the other peacekeeper still looked around until his eyes landed on the short stack of boxes. Not even listening to the conversation, he slowly advanced toward the boxes, leaning forward to peek before stepping all the way around. Almost placing his hand on his small dagger, he approached the boxes, but what he saw was no one. He continued walking into the alley, looking to his left, but still not seeing Callian, just people passing between the alley gap. "So, did you find him?" Kofi asked. "No, I didn't." "Sorry, Kofi." "As I was saying," Kofi continued while the peacekeeper rejoined the group, "we just wanted to ask him a few questions about his condition. But then I guess the guy panicked and stole a dagger from a weapons shop right in front of us. Not only that, he assaulted a man trying to help us contain him. Even though we appreciated his help, we didn't stop to check on him." I believe the guy owns one of the shops too. Kofi placed a hand on his chin, making a thinking face. If I'm correct, I also believe he used to be in the military. Anyway, I think we should act as messengers and tell the rest of the P case before this one-armed man gets out of hand. No pun intended, Kofi said, just as he was about to take a step. At his first glimpse of the peacekeeper known as Kofi, and knowing the group coming from the opposite direction would see him instantly, Callian didn't waste time moving from his spot. That's why the other peacekeeper didn't see him. He turned down so many roads and cut between so many shops that he felt confident there was no way those guards would find him. But all the running made his hunger grow. It felt like his stomach was starting to digest itself just to have something in it. Eventually, he came across a booth serving smoked meat, deer, bear, and rabbit. "How can I help you, sir?" the merchant asked, but after noticing Callian. "No, literally," she said, making a face, her eyes fixated on where Callian's arm used to be, and blood stains. "I was walking by, and your food smelled so good I couldn't help but come over," Callian replied with a smile, trying to ignore her stare. "I'll take whatever you think is the best thing on the menu." "You're talking about food? Are you sure you don't need help?" she asked with concern. "No, I'm okay, thanks. I just need some food to ease my hunger," he assured her, keeping his fake smile. "I think you should go grab a Helen plant or something. They're kind of expensive, but there's a shop nearby there." "I've already had one, but thanks for your concern," Callian interrupted. "The only thing I need right now is whatever you recommend as the best piece of smoked meat you have." Callian kept his fake smile, trying to hide his annoyance. "Oh, okay, well, that would be the bear meat. It's our most popular. It's certain to fill you up in one serving. I'll bag you up some now. Lucky for you, we already have some made," she said, walking to the back of the shop to prepare Callian's food. She had a skin tone lighter than some, and would be considerably attractive. Yet after annoying him, Callian wanted nothing to do with her. The woman was given the bear meat by the male cook. After receiving it, she placed it on the countertop and began to wrap it in a type of cloth. After doing so, she set it down in front of Callian. "That will be 10 Krugers. Silver Krugers, of course," she said with a gentle smile. Callian reached inside his trousers as if he really had the Krugers. At the same time, he spoke. "Oh, do you have some really good sauce I can put with this?" "Oh sure, let me grab it. We took it back here because people would run off with our sauce. Crazy, right? It's like they don't realize it's for everybody," the woman said as she walked away, expecting Callian to have the Krugers in hand by the time she returned. Grabbing the sauce and turning her head around, she saw no one but the few people still out shopping, passing by, although by that time, the sun was setting. Shops didn't have long before closing. As soon as she was halfway to the back, Callian had walked away as if he had paid for it. He walked instead of running, since that would attract attention. "Hey, what the?" She ran to the front and even jumped on top of the counter, her stomach lying flat to get a view down the road, but still had yet to see Callian. "What's wrong?" asked the male cook, a chubby Caucasian man wearing an apron. "That man ran off without paying. That one-armed man." The cook slapped his forehead. "You ever see that man again, you let me know, you hear?" The woman nodded. "Next time, collect the Krugers before the customer's food. That will teach 'em all," the cook said in frustration. As they began preparing to close the shop, Callian had found a place to enjoy his ill-gotten dinner, another alley behind another group of shops. After more time had passed, he had finally finished his food and stood to his feet, letting out a large, obnoxious burp. Well, that hit the spot. "Time to finally get out these old bloody garments," he said, leaving his trash on the ground. "I need to hurry up. Looks like all the shops are closing," Callian thought to himself. After some time of walking, it appeared all the shops were indeed closing. No matter what road he walked down, everyone refused to help him or even let him shop due to them closing for the rest of the day and night. "Don't you see it's getting late? We have to close," a merchant said in clear annoyance. It wasn't even a garment shop. He just wanted to see if they would serve him. "Looks like I'm stuck in these until tomorrow," he thought, feeling down. "Maybe I should just look for a place to sleep." Looking up, he saw a garment shop that was bigger than the rest and ran toward it like they were giving away stuff for free. Even from where he was standing, he could see trousers, dresses, and tunics all hanging on the walls of the shop, which had one huge opening in the front showing off all its goods to the consumers walking by. Callian entered and began grabbing things off the wall, not being picky about what he grabbed as long as they were, 1, men's clothing, and 2, newer than what he had on currently. I don't even see the merchant. This is great, Callian thought, placing a new pair of black trousers on his shoulder. Then he placed a new red tunic on his shoulder as well, on top of the trousers, and headed for the huge opening that acted as an exit and entrance. Just as he reached it, the merchant came from around the back into the shop. The two were practically face to face when their eyes locked. "Oh, so it's you," said the merchant. Callian was a little confused, yet a whole lot shaken up by the man's words, although he did recognize what the man was wearing. The man grew angry and stepped closer to Callian like he was ready for a fight. "I went around back to throw away some trash, and it looks like I came back right on time, as it seems like you were about to steal from my shop." Callian stepped back as the man continued walking forward. "How come you look so confused? You ran off so fast you probably didn't get a good look at my face after you punched it, huh?" "Well, yes, I'm the man you punched in the face." Callian's heart beat faster. He looked left, then he looked right. But there were the shop's walls on both sides. "You have nowhere to go. You punched me in the face on my lunch break. Now you try and steal from me, all on the same day. Best believe you're about to receive a nice beat down. I don't care about your arm. Just going to make it easier for." The man's words were interrupted as he was caught off guard by a sudden shove that landed square into his midsection. The sudden attack caused the merchant to stumble, doing his best not to fall as Callian continued driving him backward until he had no choice but to step to the side, clearing an opening for Callian, who continued running forward. The garments fell off his shoulder, but he didn't care. The man regained his composure and ran after Callian. "Oh no, I'm not letting you run off this time." The man pursued, running as fast as he could. Still, the distance between him and Callian increased by the second. "Damn, this guy is fast," he said right before he began to swirl his right arm in a circular motion, when a green lasso suddenly appeared in his hand, almost like magic. Those who knew him knew he was gifted, able to make any weapon he could think of appear out of thin air in a bright green color. Because of his power, people pictured him as a blacksmith, but that wasn't the path he wanted to take. The lasso was thrown and went out far and fast, able to close the distance between him and Callian in a matter of seconds, as if the rope were unlimited. Going over his head, the rope traveled down to Callian's feet and pulled tight around them, causing him to fall hard. A huge grin grew on the man's face. "I got you now," he said softly, running up to Callian. The few consumers who were still out, heading home, were wondering just what was going on as they witnessed Callian falling to the ground. "I told you, you weren't getting away," he said after closing the gap, looking Callian directly in the face. Guards! Guards! Callian's heart began to race. "It's all over now," Callian thought to himself. "Guards!" The man shouted one last time before bending over, grabbing Callian by his tunic, standing him up. "I'm going to give you that beating I promised until the peacekeepers arrive." Still holding Callian with one hand, the man let the other go, balled up his fist, and punched Callian in the face, knocking him back down. "That was from earlier," he said before standing Callian back up again. "This next one is for my shop." As the man made a fist, Callian's arm went down to his waist, and he pulled out the dagger he had stolen from the shop. It had almost fallen through his trousers after his fall, but luckily for him, it hadn't. Before the man's fist could connect for the second time, Callian stuck his dagger in the man's stomach as far as it could go. The man collapsed as soon as Callian retracted the knife, and they both fell to the ground. He stabbed me." The man began to bleed profusely, the blood spreading on the ground like water. Gasps and screams filled the air from the few people watching. Callian then sat up on his butt. "I can't believe he stabbed him. Get the peacekeeper." "Where are the peacekeepers?" An older woman yelled in terror. "There they are," another person yelled, pointing in their direction. The cry of "guard" had already attracted their attention. Callian was still in a panic, with his legs still tied up, but suddenly, the green lasso faded away, and the man no longer moved. "Oh no!" Callian was shaking as he stood up and ran. He looked back a few times, yet the man never moved again. "I need to leave this place. This village, this kingdom. I'm going to be a wanted man forever, and it will only be a matter of time before I'm caught," he thought, heading for the same woods he had snuck in from. But he was unsure of how to get there. With the amount of adrenaline he was feeling, Callian was moving fast. "He's dead," a guard said as they all looked at the man on the ground. "The killer ran that way." "Go get him," cried the older woman. "Come on," instructed the squad leader and they all ran in Kalian's direction. Kalian could barely hold on to the dagger with how shaken up he was. He too couldn't believe it, as he had never killed a man before. His stomach turned, and he wanted to puke, but did his best to hold it in, knowing it wasn't the right time. "I'm not a killer, I'm a stealer," he thought to himself as he ran. "But I panicked. I don't know what the peacekeepers would have done if they caught me. Probably locked me in a cell and threw away the key. Or maybe their king would have cut off my other arm." Reaching the borders, Kalian saw another group of peacekeepers at their posts. Not caring, he ran past them onto the dirt road and into the woods. What he hadn't realized was that it wasn't the same place he had entered the village. Hey, the peacekeepers called out to the other group as they approached. "Didn't a man run past you all?" "Yeah, he looked to be in some hurry." "I don't know why he ran into the woods like that though," a PK replied. "Is he a thief? Did he steal something?" He continued, suddenly appearing as if he was ready to go after Kalian. "That man killed someone back there." "Say what?" Another soldier responded in shock as his eyes widened. "Well, screw that, we ought to go get him," another PK of that group said, ready to take off immediately. "Wait, I don't think we all need to go, do we? It may be faster if only a few of us went in after him," said a PK in the group that walked up to the four talking amongst each other. "But we would have more eyes if we did." A PK in that group that was standing on the border said. "Screw it, let's just go," the other said, and all 8 of them went after Kalian. Kalian was running non-stop despite not hearing anyone behind him. He even tripped a few times as his legs began to feel like jello. For a moment, it was like a dream. But he had to remind himself it wasn't. He ran until eventually, Kalian found a cave, which he decided to run into, hoping there were no bears or worse inside. Due to the time of day, the cave was dark but still had enough light going in from the outside that he could see everything around him. It was a huge cave, so once he entered, he walked straight to the end of it to make sure no beasts lived inside. "Phew, there are no wild animals in here, and I don't hear any peacekeepers or soldiers," Kalian said, falling to his knees, trying to contain himself. After finally doing so, he lifted his head and got a better look at the cave he had just run into. To most, it would have been a scary sight, but Kalian, however, was intrigued. Around him were pictures drawn in blood, as well as words written in a different language. Also in blood. All around the cave, from the front to the back. It didn't take Kalian long to realize what he had found. His eyes widened as he stood to his feet and walked to a wall on one side of the cave, rubbing his finger on the dry blood. "Did I find one of the Praetor's caves?" He turned his head around to see a picture of an open mouth with sharp teeth all around, also drawn in blood. "It is. I can't believe I stumbled across it. A cave of the demon Praetors." A smile from ear to ear appeared on Kalian's face, as he now knew how he was going to get his revenge on the king for chopping off his arm. "All I have to do is find 7 more caves and learn some of the language the demon Praetors spoke, which I should probably do first."